Congressional Democrats Monday accused President Trump of failing to drain the swamp, taking aim at one of the president's key promises.
He promised to drain the swamp and clean up Washington. Democrats welcomed this promise when he made it. President Trump has embraced the most egregious establishment Republican norms and appointed the most conflict of interest-ridden cabinet in my lifetime. The swamp has never been more foul or more fetid than under this president.
Republican special interest and donor-first agenda is part of their DNA. But Democrats have a people's-first agenda, to put the power back in the hands of the American people. We're fixing our broken political system and ensuring government works for everyone, not just the wealthy and well-connected.
Democrats also unveiled several proposals they say would target what they call corruption in the Trump administration. They're hoping to regain control of at least one chamber of Congress in November's midterm elections. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. He's in Washington. All right, so Ed, we just heard congressional Democrats say that President Trump has made things, quote, swampier. What are the steps they've outlined today?
They're essentially, Elaine, trying to take a mix of sort of already proposed and new ideas that would, in essence, rein in the power of the executive branch and the self-policing that the executive branch has done for decades. Remember, there were a lot of reforms put in place after the Watergate scandal in the 1970s that applied to not only the presidency and cabinet secretaries and the federal workforce overall, but now they believe there's got to be some other ones put in place. Basically, you could call them the Michael Cohen loopholes and the Trump family loopholes, all designed to address the instances or the incidents that have emerged in the last 18 months or so that Democrats think are examples of the president essentially trying to enrich himself and his family. The idea that, the government is spending money at Trump hotels, both in the United States and overseas. The idea that the president's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, didn't entirely register properly as a lobbyist or foreign agent. There have been a host of proposals that would require, for example, the Secret Service to publish guest logs or visitor logs for any piece of property or place that the president visits on a regular basis, basically designed to figure out who has been visiting the president at Mar-a-Lago or in Bedminster, New Jersey, when he goes to his winter and summer golf resorts. So all of this part of a plank that they started outlining last fall, designed to not only talk about other issues, but now in this case address a growing concern, especially among Democratic base voters who are upset with the president.
Well, obviously the midterms are top of mind here. How much are Democrats searching for that balance between campaigning against the president versus campaigning on actual policy issues?
It's a daily struggle for them, and you talk to the candidates, you talk to the people who work for them, and they say, look, on a regular basis out here on the trail, we're not getting asked about the latest Russia investigation detail. We're not getting asked necessarily or too frequently whether or not we support impeaching the president. What we are getting asked about is, what are you doing to save my health care? What do you make of that tax reform pledge? What do you think about other ways to make sure that economic growth is being distributed equitably across American society? And they also complain, frankly, that the news media spends too much time talking about all those other issues and not necessarily talking about health care, the effects of the tax reform bill, or the other issues of concern to voters. So, while it is a subject of concern among partisan Democrats, the most ardent liberals in this country, and while it's something that polling reflects is of concern to voters, they know that on those issues alone, corruption or the attempts to sort of rein in the executive branch and deal with some of the scandals that have been exposed over the last 16 months, that won't be enough. And that they've got to be campaigning on other issues as well.
And there's been talk of impeachment, but Democrats, as I understand it, stopped short of calling for that today. Is it because of what you just spelled out?
Yeah, and you listen to top party leaders and they say there's no evidence of that yet. You have to let the Mueller investigation play itself out. If evidence is presented that suggests there are impeachable offenses, by all means, we'll move forward with it. You look at the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler of New York, who has said that. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has said it repeatedly. Republicans turn around and say, don't be fooled. The moment they get control of the House, if they get control of the House, they're going to push for this. But what they're essentially trying to do is temper expectations among their base voters and say, look, we're on the lookout for it. We'll see what the Mueller investigation says. But it is not necessarily number 1, 2, or 3 on the to-do list.
Well, we know that enthusiasm within that base is pretty strong. Are you seeing that play out within the party right now as we look ahead to midterms?
Yeah, I mean, it remains a big concern and sort of an obsession of some of the most passionate Democratic voters. And that's why, for example, earlier this spring, there was a lot of focus among Democrats on who would be the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, because were impeachment proceedings to ever happen, they would start with that House Judiciary Committee. And as I said, Congressman Jerry Nadler of Manhattan, I think he represents a district that starts just a few blocks from where you're standing, Elaine, actually, has said it's not necessarily a priority of mine. It is something we'll be on the lookout for. But you talk to Democrats broadly across the country. They are concerned about preserving the health care system as it exists and making sure that Republicans don't cut into it anymore. They want to find a way, should they take back power, to cut back or to raise the corporate tax rate again, and maybe go after some of the other changes made, even though they realize that tax cuts for individuals and for families are probably too popular to totally do away with. And last fall, they have released a host of ideas on all those other issues. This one now, however, designed to sort of appease a wing of the party that says this is the way to win elections, this is going to be a top priority of ours, as they say, preserving democracy or democratic norms and making sure that the administration isn't overstepping.
Interesting dynamics at play. Ed O'Keefe, thanks so much, Ed.
Take care.